Yo, what is up YouTube? It's your boy Legend and I'm back with another video. You already know what this is just by looking at the thumbnail. Now if you guys like the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe while you're at it. But without further ado, let's just get into this intro so we can start this whatever.
I won't give up, I'll never stop till I wash up on the sand or my heart finally stops. I will be the best, headed out for change, I just started on my quest. Yeah, the world will know my name, I'm excited, I'm obsessed. No one in my way but myself and a test. Yeah, I will be the best, yeah, I will be the best. Life is just a game, I'll be playing till I rest. I'll be there to claim my own spot among the best. Deep within my mind, I'll put all my fear to rest. Cause I will be the best, yeah, I will be the
With Naruto in the throne room, Naruto, calm down, said a soothing voice that came from Kurumi as she sat on the armrest of his throne. I am calm, Rumi. I don't know what you're talking about. Papa, then, why is your leg shaking so much? Nell said with an innocent smile. That's because Papa is nervous, little one, answered Retsu as she walked in from another room to see Naruto sitting on his throne with Nell on his lap and Kurumi on the armrest, each dressed in formal clothes. Naruto wore a black kimono that had a thin white stripe design, with the stripes going up and down the kimono, while Kurumi wore a red, loose-fitting kimono that was designed with small white flowers and showed off a bit too much of her bust for Retsu's liking. Finally, Nell wore a teal kimono with a blue cornflower flower designs, and all the white having her cracked skull mask on her little head. Naruto sighed. I'm not nervous, but his slightly shaky leg gave him away. Kurumi hugged him from where she sat. Naruto, it's hard to be a bit nervous. This is the first time that you'll be seeing anyone from the village. Just remember that we will always be with you. Please, my love, have no fear. We will support you just as we always have. Retsu continued. This made Naruto smile. I don't know what I'd do without you two. And it was the truth. He was basically inviting his family that hated him into his country and home. Without those two women and the third that was here, when he could be, he would be a nervous wreck. That was something that would have put no image of a strong and powerful leader that was needed in front of the Kages and visitors he was about to have. If he wanted to make sure that his people didn't seem like pushovers. What about me, Papa? Nell questioned as she turned around on his lap and stood on his legs so that she was even with his face. What would you do without me? Oh, baby girl, I couldn't imagine what life would be like without you. Papa would get sad and so would both your mothers. I think we'd all die because we would miss you so much. He then grabbed her head with his free hand while the other was trapped between him and Kurumi's hug and pulled her head close so that he could give her a kiss on her forehead. Nell smiled and hugged her father and stayed like that for a few seconds before she let go. Papa, are we still going to go to the festival today? Yeah, we are. But first, we're going to meet up with Uncle Ken and Ichigo and Auntie Toka and Rukia at the pastry man's store. Really? That means we'll see Kuro and Shiro. Yup. But how are we supposed to leave when you're still on my lap? He asked with a slight chuckle as that Nell blushed from embarrassment and climbed off her father's lap. This also got Kurumi to let go and get off of the armrest so that they could leave the palace. As the four walked to the door, they stopped by a voice. My lord, everything is taken care of. I asked to be excused for the day, if that would be alright. Walter, I told you already that you don't have to call me lord or anything. And I told you, today you have the day off. Naruto said with a sigh. Walter was a young man around the age of 17 who had a thin but lean build and was around 5'8". He had long black hair that was pulled back into a short ponytail. He had pale skin tone with gray eyes and wore a dark gray shirt with black dress pants and vests over it, and a red tie with dress pants. If I couldn't finish today's workload before my own free time, what kind of butler would I be? The three adults could only give a deadpan stare at his words, with only Retsu answering finally. Sebastian has been a very good influence on you, she said with a smile. Naruto sighed. Yes, Walter, you can take the day off. Then Naruto smirked. Just enjoy yourself and say hi to Ichika for me. Tell her that her dear uncle misses her so much. At that comment, Walter blushed. What do you mean? I know of no such woman. Oh? Then why, when the Kurosakis come to visit, do you run off when you're finished with your work, or you request to take off? Naruto watched as his butler began to slightly squirm under his gaze while trying to explain that he had important business on those days. But Naruto, he saved him when he raised a hand, motioning for him to stop. Walter, I do not care how you spend your time off or who you choose to spend it with. All I ask is that you do not let Ichigo or Rukia find out, because the moment they do, I can promise you this, that either A, you will suffer untold pain at the hands of Rukia, or B, I will have to bury my head butler if Ichigo finds out first. At that, the young butler paled and shook a little, because the people that knew the Soul King personally knew that he was very protective of his daughter, though he was eased only a little after the next thing his butler said. Though you shouldn't have to worry, Ichigo can be a airhead sometimes. Oh, who you calling the airhead? At that sound of the newcomer's voice, Naruto and his butler stiffened while Naruto's wives placed a hand above their mouths, trying to keep their laughter in, while Nell looked on confused. No one, Ichigo. I was just talking about this performer I once met that acted like an airhead. Oh, really? What was the name of this performer? Asked a slightly ticked off Ichigo. You know, as he tried to think of a name to save himself, Ichigo's wife, Rukia, stopped her giggling and saved him. The woman was short in stature, around 4'8" with black hair that went down to the middle of her back and framed her face. She wore a white kimono that was so white. It looked as if the silk were actually snow, and to complete her dress, she had on a white hairpiece that looked like icicles on the side of her head. Ichigo, I think they're talking about the Chaplin performer that recently became a big hit, she said with a smile. Charles, the guy that falls over a lot. You mean that guy? Nell yelled in excitement, obvious to the fact that her speaking saved her father and butler. Yep, the very one, Naruto says with a nervous laugh. Oh, he's so funny. I like him, Nell said again with a grin on her face, though that grin soon turned into laughter as the young woman appeared behind her and scooped her up into her arms. The young woman's name was Ichika, daughter of Ichigo and Rukia. The young woman stood at a middle height between her parents at 5'4" with purple eyes. She had her orange hair bound into a high, spiky ponytail, and her back, and wore a white kimono with red spider lily patterns. Oh, how long has it been since I last saw you, my little granddaughter? Nell giggled and laughed as the young woman tickled her while she held her. Stop, Sika, I can't breathe. She managed to get out as she again started to laugh from the tickling onslaught. Oh, no you don't. This is payback for last time. You changed my shampoo to green hair dye last time you were over, she said in a playful yet slightly angry tone as she continued the tickling. Do you know how long it took to get that out of my hair? This time, she stopped in her tickling to look at her goddaughter, waiting for an answer while Nell tried to regain her breath. A day? She asked innocently while looking away. Nell received no answer, so she decided to look up at her godmother's face. What she saw scared her. Her godmother's upper face was shadowed with her hair that was not there, only allowing 2 white orbs that were eyes to be seen, and a smile that stretched from one side to the other, allowing her face to have a deranging looking smile. The face terrified Nell and even unnerved the adults a bit. For a week, my hair was green. For a week. A week! So for that, I'm not going to stop tickling you until you promise to stop playing pranks on me. She continued her tickling onslaught again. Okay, I promise, no more pranks. Nell yelled while panting, trying to regain her breath from the godmother tickling attack. You promise? Ichika asked again. Yes. I'm going to hold you to that, little missy, she said, and put Nell down. Well, when Nell was put down, she rushed to her father's legs and hid behind him. Then, as she poked her head out from behind him to see if her godmother gave chase or not, and to her relief, she didn't. The adults and others there could only laugh as it happened before. Naruto then spoke as they quieted down. So why are you guys here? I thought I said we'd meet at the bakery. Well, we were waiting, but Ichika started to get impatient and said that she was going to walk ahead, but we decided to join her, and now we're here, Ichigo answered. Why? Don't you want us here, Iller? Think I'll beat you all at the stalls? First off, no, I was just wondering, that's all. And second, you don't have a chance at beating me, Naruto said in a mocking tone. He then turned around, grabbed Nell, and placed her on his shoulders. Right, baby girl? Yeah, let's be Uncle Ichigo and eat lots of food, yelled the small child. The two men then ran off to engage in an ultimate stall battle, leaving their wives behind, along with Ichigo's daughter and Naruto's butler. I swear he's going to be the death of me, Rukia said with a small smile on her face, as Naruto and Nell will be ours. I agree, Retsu agreed. Should we follow? The three wives then looked at each other, took up a thinking stance. Sure, why not? Could be funny to watch, Kurumi said with a shrug of her shoulders, and then began to walk after them at a leisurely pace, with the others two following her. Well, that was interesting, Ichika said, as she and the butler were the only ones left at the entrance of the palace. Quiet. So, what you say we try some of the stalls before later tonight? She said with a slight purr. I was just about to ask the same thing, was the confident reply, and with that they linked arms and walked towards the festival. Later that night with Mito. I know it's going to be big, but this is ridiculous. This has to be bigger than Konoha and Kiri combined. You think so? I'm not quite sure. What do you think? If I were to guess, 2 would be about that size, if only a little smaller. This was the talk that Mito heard from both Kiri and Konoha competitors as they got closer to the gates of the capital known as Babylon, each sizing the city up from where they were. It was rare to see two villages that always had a slightly rocky relationship work together, but desperate times call for desperate measures. They both had happened upon each other shortly after they had broke their camp this morning. Their groups were slightly on edge with the others present, but who could blame them? Konoha had denied support to the rebels during their civil war, but that hadn't been the smartest move because a few years later the civil war ended with the rebels on top, which almost crippled any trade between the two villages. Mito understood how they thought and accepted it, though she knew that the civilian council hadn't taken it lightly. The council wanted to swoop in and make a grab for power, but were only stopped by the ninja council and her father. Had her father and the others let the civilian council gotten what they wanted, then there would have been another world war for sure. And that was something no one wanted. So it wasn't surprising that it was a little tense at first, though her father and the Mizukage whose name she learned was Mei, quickly put a stop to any possible fighting very fast. They both realized that they were in a foreign country and that they knew nothing about it. No one had intel or information to share or use to give themselves an advantage. Thus, the two Kage realized that they needed to form some sort of alignment to keep their competitors alive and uninjured. This also allowed for the two villages, to a lesser degree, form some sort of bond to help for the future treaties. As they approached the gates, they noticed that a massive group of people had just entered the city, and from what everyone could see, it was Suna, which meant to Mito that her friend Gaara, who had become their Kaze Kage, was there with his brother and sister. Her and Gaara met when her father hosted the tuning exams in their village. He was a very quiet person and still is to those who he doesn't know personally. Though, even if you do ask him personally, he was still a quiet person, but that was another matter. They had met before the first event. They weren't friends right off the bat, but as the tournament went on and both made it to the final levels, they began to talk, if only slightly, and by the last event, they had an acquaintance level relationship. It wasn't until 3 years later, after she returned from a 3-year training trip with her godfather, she was able to call Gaara a friend when she was sent to Suna for a diplomatic mission that was to help secure trade for her village with their new Kazekage, which happened to be him. As the Suna group moved, so she caught a glimpse of Gaara looking back at her and only nodding when he realized she saw him. This was to show that he acknowledged she was here and was a way to greet her from afar. She then watched as the two Kages and everyone else began to follow the Suna group until they were stopped by two people. The first was a handsome young man that appeared to be in his early 20s and stood around 5'8". He had short, messy purple hair that bordered on his back and was pulled back into a ponytail. He had blue eyes that almost seemed to glow with the fading sunlight and had very light skin. He also wore a plain black kimono with black sandals. The second was a young girl that was petite with pale skin and straight black hair. That was Chinlei. She had dark purple eyes similar to her mother's and wore a yukata that was white and a sash that was red. "Halt! Speak your names," said the young man. She watched as her father and the Mizukage began to introduce themselves and their representative groups. This got her to look over at her own group. The group consisted of many faces that she was familiar with, ranging from the classmates that she grew up with, which were known as the Konoha 12, and sensei that taught them, including her second sensei Jiraiya, some of both of the civil and shinobi council, a few normal Anbu and undercover Anbu, and two of the elders, them being Danzo and Hamura. Yeah, that's a bad move. Mito looked at the guards. "This proves that they have strong warriors here," spoke her friend and squad mate Sasuke Uchiha into her ear from behind her. This made her turn to the guards. Both seemed and didn't seem to be on guard. The man held a look of a trained killer in his eyes, but possessed no weapons. The girl seemed aloof, with a smile that she possessed, but they could quickly tell that she was at least trained in some sort of art, because no normal girl moved with such grace and fluidity. "I am Minato Namikaze, Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves. I am Mei Terumi, Mizukage of village hidden in the mist. We are both here for the Olympics that are taking place here." The young man looked over the group before speaking. "Nora, do you have the list for Konoha and Kiri?" The small girl, now named Nora, handed 2 scrolls from the collection under her arm. "Yato, they seem to have the right amount of people from what I can tell," she said in a soft voice that seemed a bit dull. "Yes, I can see that, but it's always good to make sure," replied the now named Yato. He then began counting heads and comparing some faces for the Kiri group from the back and the front where Mei stood. "Please wait right here so I can go over the Konoha group," he said in a calm but demanding voice. "That will be fine," was Mei's reply. He then gave the scroll back to the small girl and opened the next scroll, looking over the names and comparing faces. Everything was fine until Yato stopped in front of Mito Sensei Jiraiya. You have one more than you had put down. Why is that? He was going to stay at the village for a mission, but he ended up coming home earlier than expected and asked to come. He replied with a neutral tone, "Will there be a problem?" "Yes, actually. We were informed that only a certain amount were supposed to enter. You exceed that by one. Therefore, just let him in, Yato. It's only one," spoke a familiar voice. Both groups looked past Yato and Nora at a finely dressed Alios Trancy and Sail Phantom Hive. They both had their respective butlers with them, but Sail had another person with him, one that none had seen with him when he had visited their villages. It was a young woman that seemed to have clung to his arm. She looked to be around 17 and stood at 5'2". She had soft pale skin, golden eyes that resembled a lioness. She had jet black hair that was arranged in long braids and cat ear like buns, with two blood red flower types on each side of her head. She wore a navy blue loose-fitting kimono with a small beige butterfly design that went down to her feet, but seemed to part around her thighs, leaving them in full view for all to see. Most of the men blushed, if only a little, at the sight of the woman, and even a few women did as well, but Alios brought them out of their momentary shock of the woman. "I'd watch it if I were you. Cell has always been a bit overprotective of the girl on his arm, even though she doesn't need it." He mumbled the last part. Most of them heard him. "Alios, if anything happens because of this man, then you will be the first one I point to," Yato stated in a calm but unnerving voice. This got the blonde to smile slightly. "Oh, I dare you to tell him if something goes amiss. Me and the Emperor haven't had a good spar in a long time, so I welcome it." He finished as a dark aura started to befall him, making most of them feel as if they were bugs and he had a giant readying to smash them. It also didn't help that his smile stretched to that of an evil and insane grin. The aura slowly started to make some feel as if they were choking and even making others feel slightly faint, but that's all disappeared in an instant as the happy, playful smile reached on his face. All the while, Cell and those with him watched him with amused faces. He then turned to face the group of competitors. "Alright then, Yato and Nora will be taking you to your hotels or compounds, depending on preferences, and acts in the city later. I ask that you please follow all the rules of the city and any other rules that will be instated by these two," he said, pointing at Yato and Nora. "So other than that, I ask that you enjoy the festival. It will last 3 days and will be leading off the Olympics. Now, I believe that is all. Good day to you." He then turned to leave and Cell made to follow, but was stopped by the woman that clung to his arm. She pulled him closer and whispered something into his ear. He then turned back to the group. Ranmeo reminded me that there will be a civilian Olympics starting tomorrow if you do not wish to spend all your time at the festival." He then turned with Ranmeo still attached to his arm and walked to catch up with Alios. "You are lucky that Alios was here to allow you to enter the city, because if he wasn't, I would have left the man outside the city. Please know that it is not a grudge or malice towards you, but my job that makes me do this. I do not want personal that we know nothing about to enter our capital and cause problems." Mito commended the man's sense of duty because she knew that sometimes there was no other way to act when it interfered with your job, especially when it came to the safety of a city. She was also sometimes put in similar positions when on missions where she had to choose. "Now, Kiri, I ask that you follow me, and I ask that Konoha follow Nora. We will be leading you to your temporary residences. Mito saw her father nod and began to walk, following the small girl. Please follow me, Nora said in a sweet voice. You will be staying in one of our guest compounds. As they walked into the city, they saw that the festival that Alios talked about was in full swing. The festival was full of laughter and cheers of joy. Children ran around from stall to stall with parents talking and following behind them. Cheers from what looked like bars and other restaurants that were further down and along the buildings. All in all, the city was in a happy and joyous mood that left even them, newcomers and foreigners, wanting to join in on the fun that the festival had to offer. This is normally the market district. This is where the festival will be for the most part. There will be a more adult festival in the district over on the last day before the Olympics, and the civilian Olympics will be held in the same district tomorrow and the day after. At that moment, Nora was interrupted as a small green child ran into her. Oomph! Hey, watch, Nora, help, hide me! The girl then ran behind her, allowing her to be hidden from the way that she came. The competitors looked at the girl that faced them, trying to hide from whoever was chasing her. The girl then noticed that she had an audience in front of her and decided to smile and wave at the audience. She then made a shushing motion at the group, making the female competitors gush to themselves about how cute she was, and some of the males chuckled at her antics. Some even waved back discreetly, not wanting to be the one to reveal the cute little girl. Just then, a group saw two more girls walk onto the scene, both dressed in kimonos, one with white and black trim, while the other had a black and white trim on. With puzzled and playful looks, each one looking for what everyone assumed was the green-haired girl. They then noticed their guide and walked closer. Hey, Nora, they said at the same time. Hello, Shiro. Hello, Kuro. How have you been? She said with a smile. We're both fine, said they guessed because of the white hair Shiro. Kuro spoke up then. Nora, have you seen Nell? We were playing hide and seek with Mom and Dad. They found us, so we just have to find Nell. Nora feigned a thinking pose, as if thinking extremely hard on whether she saw the girl before answering. I'm sorry, you two, but she never finished because a calm but playful voice spoke before she could finish. Nell, I see your feet poking outside from the side of Nora's yukata. This got the now named Nell to pout cutely. Uncle Ken, I thought I was your favorite niece. The man that had spotted the girl chuckled slightly, walked towards them. A few of the younger female competitors in the group blushed slightly from the sight of the man. The man had a very handsome face, and what the open part of the kimono plain black showed had a lean but muscular build. He had a pale skin complexion and snow white hair and had steel gray eyes. Nell, you're my only niece, he said with a deadpan stare, but quickly lightened up. Now, let's go to your father, he's waiting for you. He said that they're going to stop at the last stall for some sweets before they head back home. What? But the sun's just set. This time, a woman spoke up. When the group saw her, there were several blushes. The woman looked very young and beautiful, with her lightly tanned, almost pale skin, sickly black hair, and blue sapphire eyes to add to her beauty. She wore a black plain kimono trimmed with white that hugged her body, allowing her curves to be seen if you looked closely. Come on now, your father, Kurumi, and Kurosaki's and Kaneki's are waiting for you, said the silky voice of the woman. But Mama, I still want to play with she and Ku, Nell whined cutely. Nell, don't worry about that. They're coming by to stay a little. Really? She said excitedly to the man named Ken. Yes, Nell, we'll be staying for a bit. Yay! She shouted and jumped up and down. She then stopped and grabbed the two girls by the hand before running off. Ku, come on, let's go. Everyone there smiled, even the ever stoic Aburame Shino, had the hint of a smile on his face if you were to see past the hood. The woman that was there then turned to the group of people. I'm sorry about that. My daughter can be a handful sometimes. Oh, it's no problem. I remember when this one was growing up and how full of energy she was, Minato said while pointing a thumb over his shoulder at Mito that was a few feet behind him. Said girl pouted slightly, and her mother, who was standing next to her, giggled into her hand while watching her daughter. Yes, they do grow up fast, was Retsu's reply. Now excuse me, I must go and make sure that my husband and my friend's husband don't destroy anything, she said, and turned to leave. I must also go and make sure that those same two people don't do anything rash while I'm gone. Forgive me for interrupting you, Nora. He then turned and walked back the way he came. My God, who was that woman? Said a young man with feral features. She had the body of a bombshell. I think that young man was quite handsome. Don't you agree, Mito? He only looks a few years older than you, said Kushina. Mom, I told you that I'm not looking right now. Plus, I think those two girls were his kids. I mean, they look similar enough to pass off. Well, you wouldn't be wrong in the sense that those two girls were his kids, so I recommend that if you're looking for a partner, to not follow your pursuit in him. Nora spoke since the people had left. He is also very faithful to the woman that he is married to, so seducing him won't work either. A few of the women that Mito had guessed were single pouted and muttered a curse. If Mito heard right, it sounded like lucky bitch. She then listened as Nora continued. As for the woman, she turned to look at the young man that had made his comment, and with a kind and almost too innocent of a smile. That would be one of our queens, and her stepchild Nell, that she was with. The group froze, each turning ahead to the now pale, feral-looking young man, realizing that what he said in front of a guard might have not been his brightest decision. Now then, we are almost there. Let us hope that no more interruptions occur. Please follow me. Nora then turned around and continued to walk down the street like as if it were any normal day. The Konoha group, though, just continued forward, not saying anything, letting unintentionally an awkward silence befall the group as they followed the young girl to where they would be staying. With most thinking, after hearing the comment about the queen, that their start wasn't the best they could have had. But guys, I'm going to end it off right there. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe while you're at it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.